Hello, how are you doing? What happened with my computer? Oh, here it is. Okay. Well, this is Edith Neumeyer, and I'm going to continue my studies of Revelation. I'm doing part 8 tonight. And I'm going to talk about the beast out of the earth. In my part 7, I talked about the beast out of the the sea, and how it did fit into the timeline. Okay, and I talked about how Satan was kicked out of the heaven, and he had to go to earth, and he had to find a home here on earth. And what he did, he transformed the Roman Empire into his own empire and his own likeness, with all the energy into that empire to control humankind totally. And that's what I talked about in my last video. Now today, we're going to hear the rest of the story, what happened next. And so we're going to start with Revelation 11. It's Revelation 13:11. And I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. He had 2 horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. Now this first beast out of the sea, we know that this continues. When we read Daniel 7, we know that that beast continues to the end, until Jesus returns and destroys all empires. All 4 empires, okay, that were on this earth were destroyed completely. In other words, he's destroying all man-made and, of course, Satan-made, tempered with empires. And he establishes his empire. Okay, all the other ones are destroyed. We're seeing that when we looked at the wrath of God, the 7 trumpets and the 7 bowls, we saw how at the end all kingdoms fell, all cities fell, because there was this huge earthquake. Okay, so but we went back in time again, because we're not at the end, yet, because this is overlapping. So we went back in time from the time of Jesus, and we are right now about 250 years ago. Because 250 years ago, something interesting happened. We talked about the empire out of the sea, the European empire, kind of broke to pieces. The little horn that was on top of that empire didn't have the power anymore to keep them all under its control. And so they broke off from papacy, who ruled them all. Okay? Always, when I see that, I always think about the Lord of the Rings, right? A ring to rule them all. And that's really what happened. Okay? Papacy ruled them all 10 horns, if you read Daniel 7. But something happened. They didn't want to comply anymore during the Reformation. They broke loose from papacy. And so, because of that, of course, the dragon was really angry. Not just papacy, not only the Pope was angry, but especially the dragon was angry. Okay? So these people all were looking for freedom. And they were running, really, even in Europe, the persecution continued. So many went to the United States to start a kingdom. A lot of the reformers, right? And people who believed, in the Reformation and were studying the Bible, they all came to the United States to start a kingdom there, because this longing for freedom comes out of this freedom that we are now having from being saved by grace. Okay? We're saved by grace, not through works anymore. And so this feeling that, hey, we are free, we're not under bondage anymore, right, has to come out in your thinking and in your world view and in your beliefs. And so these people longed for a country that was ruled or governed by the people. And where did that start? That started in the United States. Okay? So this beast out of the earth can only be the United States. Okay? Why? Because there was no other country. There was no other country that started a new empire. It could not have been, Russia, because Russia was there already. It's part of Europe. Okay, even though, it's shown as there's opposites there, with Russia being communist or whatever, but it was still part of the European beast system. Can't be China, because China is not really a world empire today. Because we're going to have to look today, because today we are living in the end times. The time is over, people, and you need to understand that the time is over. So the only empire that we can look upon right now, empire, that's the key word here, because a beast is an empire. It's a minor empire compared to the beast out of the sea, but nevertheless it's an empire. Okay? And Daniel did not see this beast at all, because really this beast really gets its power anyways from the beast out of the sea and from the dragon, and we'll see this right now. Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. It exercised all the authority of the first beast on its behalf, and made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast whose fatal wound had been healed. Okay? So he got his power from the first beast. Now think about that. Okay? So this empire started. It wasn't an empire at first. It was just a country, the United States. It was founded on freedom. It was founded on freedom of religion. It was founded as a Christian nation. But over time, it turned into an empire. And as it turned into the empire, it really became the power from whom? From Europe. Okay? When do you think the United States became an empire? Now, lots of people don't even think that the United States is an empire, right? Okay? But nevertheless, it is. I mean, it's like a hush-hush thing. We don't even hear about, the U.S. empire? Who talks about the U.S. empire? Nobody. Nobody. Why? What does it have? It has 2 horns. Yeah? Like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. So it was innocent. Okay? You know the innocence of the United States. It's found on Christianity, and people, we have missionaries going into all the world proclaiming the gospel. See, that's the lamb. That's the 2 horn of the lamb. We're proclaiming democracy to everybody. That's the lamb. But it also speaks like a dragon. Why? Because the dragon also eventually gave him the power. What happened? Let's say, I'm going to say 50 years into it, or let's say 100 years into it. What happened? I have discussed that in my videos before. Okay? And there's a book that I need to show you, and I'm going to have to stop my video so I can. All right. I know I said I need to find this book because I need to bring this in because I talked about it. But this book is so important to understand what happened to this founded new country built on freedom, okay, and democracy and Christianity, freedom of, speech, freedom of religion. But the dragon was really, really upset when this country was founded. You know who the dragon is, right? Satan. Now, why was Satan so upset? Well, simply because the people ran from the Pope, who was supposed to control everything for Satan, okay? And Satan all of a sudden lost control. Was that the time when when he received a head wound? Very possible. I think maybe the Reformation could have been a time when that head wound happened. At least he was wounded. His power was wounded. And so then what did he do? What would you do? Let's assume you're the dragon. Somebody took your power away. What would you do? Would you just say, okay, well, it's too bad? No, he didn't do that. He went to the United States and infiltrated into the country, into the politics, into the financial system. He infiltrated everything in the United States. How did he do that? What did he use before? The Catholic Church. What does he use what did he do in the States? He used again the Catholic Church. He used the Catholic believers to do his dirty work. He used the priests. Now, I have this really great book that I have mentioned before, and it's written by, it's a huge book. Look at this, okay? This is how big the book is. It's a huge book. It's written by a Charles Chiniquy, and the conversion of a priest, 50 years in the Church of Rome. That was the book called, 50 Years in the Church of Rome. This book was written this priest lived during the time of Abraham Lincoln. Matter of fact, he was a personal friend of Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln actually defended him, I think, once when a bishop was going against him and was accusing him of false things in the court system of the United States. And so that's how they became actually friends. And he talks about the corruption and the infiltration of papacy into the United States and how corrupt these bishops were in the United States, these Catholic bishops in the United States during that time, and their plan to take over the United States. How much the Pope hated the freedom of the United States and the Protestants, okay, that founded this country, and how he wanted to bring it down. So that was what, 150 years ago when Abraham Lincoln lived, 1800 and something. Okay, so fast forward to today. What do we have today? And I will bring I will put this book on the bottom so you can find it. I believe you can even find it free. I believe I have some place where you can download it for free, or you can buy it. But fast forward to today. We even know that Abraham Lincoln, okay, this guy says it. He did the research during the time of Abraham Lincoln, and he says that Abraham Lincoln was killed by a Catholic, most likely forced or motivated by the Jesuits. Okay? So now, fast forward to today. What's happening today? Or let's go a little bit further back. What happened during World War I? When did now the U.S. became a world empire? And how did it become a world empire? It was very simple. The powers to be created a war in Europe. And who rescued Europe from what? The total breakdown? The United States. Just during the last minute, when everything was destroyed in Europe, okay? And the Kaiser, the German Kaiser, was just begging everybody to make peace treaty with each other and get along with each other. The United States came into the war and took over. And that is when the U.S. became a world empire, or started to become a world empire. Now, that wasn't the only time, right? That was very devastating for Europe. That created the Second World War. The Second World War was fought, and again, at the end, when everything was destroyed, or almost destroyed, the United States comes in with fresh energy and wham, 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 takes over again. And of course, that gave him even more power. And by the time the Second World War was over, the United States comes out as a winner with the allies, the NATO allies, comes out as the leading empire. At first, we have, of course, the Cold War with Russia. But then when Russia failed, or not, Soviet Union fell, there was the United States as the only leading empire that we're having today. No, it's not China. Okay? No, it's not China. China is not the world empire. It's the United States. And who gave him that power? Who invited him into the war? Twice. Okay? Yeah, it looks like England invited him. Okay? Of course, when you look at what happened and how really the United States got into the war every time, it's kind of really like a false flag kind of event. If you look at the first event that caused the United States, the United States enter into the war, I think it was bringing down one of the ships. It was a ship that, it looked like they had passenger, but really they were carrying military weapons. And so I think the Germans shot it with the U-boat, brought it down. But they really said, oh, it's just a passenger. And so they entered, World War I. What happened in the Second World War, they knew exactly the Japanese would attack, allowed the attack. And then, now we have a reason to enter the World War II. So, yeah, they entered always in a strange way, didn't they? Okay. But nevertheless, they were invited and begged by Europe, at least England, to enter this war and then come out as a victor. But the question is, who was really behind all that? Now, if we know that papacy has meddled with the United States during our Civil War, who was behind this whole thing? Who had an interest in creating out of this little country, at first little country, an empire or a beast out of the earth. Again, 2 horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. Okay, that's what we eventually became, is more speaking like a dragon. And it exercised all the authority of the first beast on its behalf. On its behalf. So it became the spokesperson for the first beast. Okay? And made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose fatal wound had been healed. And he performed great signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven to the earth in full view of the people. Now, somebody told me, well, I haven't seen that happening yet. Why? Because we're always thinking it's just the man, one man, that's causing this. Of course, the beast is also called the false prophet. So when you say false prophet, people think, oh, it must be a prophet, it must be a man. But we know beast is a system, it's an empire. Okay? So this beast out of the earth is an empire. And this empire is bringing down fire from heaven. And this guy said, I haven't seen that yet. You know what I told him? I said, I guess you have not been in a war-stricken area. And I guess you have not been in Europe when they were bombed and fire came down out of heaven and they were burned to crisp in Europe with the cities. They were bombed out, burning in the basements. Yep, that's exactly what happened. If you were in Germany, you would know what it means to have fire come down from heaven. You would know. Some of the cities have sulfur coming down from heaven. And people were burning and they were running into the water and it was burning. The fire, I mean, even the river was burning because of the sulfur. That's how bad it was. Oh no, Americans don't know that. Because they're bombing overseas. They don't know what's happening. Atom bomb. That wasn't fire come from down from heaven? The atom bomb wasn't, I think, twice. That wasn't fire come from down from heaven? All the missiles that are throwing over there in the Middle East, it's not fire come from heaven? Yeah, it's happening today, people. It's not going to be like a miracle or something, like hocus pocus kind of stuff. It's real. Now, John didn't see it that way. I mean, he's never seen anybody bringing down fire. I mean, during John's time, they didn't even have cannons. They didn't even have cannons. But now they have airplanes up there dropping, the fire. What do you think he thought when he saw that? I mean, actually fire coming down, bombing cities burning. That's not fire come from down from heaven? Yeah, it happened, people. That's happened. Inside of people. Because of the signs, it was given power to perform on behalf of the first beast. Okay? Because of the signs, it was given power to perform on the behalf of the first beast. Why? Because they were so powerful. That's why they could perform on behalf of the first beast. Who is in charge of NATO? The United States people. Hello? NATO are the European people, right? And other people in the world that organized around the United States militarily. Because the military power was given to the United States. They gave it to the United States. Why? Because they came in and decided what happened in the Second World War, First World War. Okay? And people say, oh no, this has not happened yet. No, people. If you would just understand history, they're saying, oh, it doesn't say it there. No, it's not saying there. But you're going to have to know what is happening in history. You cannot ignore what is happening in history. Well, I have been interrupted again. I guess that's just what happens in my life, I guess. Every time I want to make a video, somebody is interrupting me. But we were talking about verse 14. Because of the signs, it was given power to perform on the behalf of the first beast. So because of the signs, bringing fire down from heaven, it was given power to perform on the behalf of the first beast. So the first beast gave him the power. And the second part says, and it deceived the inhabitants of the earth. Okay? So who is deceiving the inhabitants of the earth? It is the second beast. Deceiving. What are we going through today? How much have we been deceived? Starting with 9/11. Okay? Starting with 9/11. How much are we deceived right now with this false coronavirus? Okay? Where's all this coming from? It's the beast out of the earth. That's very important that I'm saying that this beast is not just the U.S. empire, but it's the extension of the U.S. empire. I said that the U.S. and the NATO are one area of this empire. So the military system. And then we have the financial system, right? The Federal Reserve. It's another system that goes beyond the United States and rules really the money all over. London is part of this money system. And so it is really the new world order that grew out of this empire, this U.S. empire, that is deceiving the whole world. People, the whole world. Okay? The whole world is deceived. I mean, this false pandemic is definitely an example, a very strong example. You know, these deceptions have been building. They knew they could deceive us. And they keep deceiving us more and more because they already know that we are gullible and we can be deceived. And so now they have this false pandemic with which they're deceiving us all over the world, people. And they're dishing out this vaccine now, okay, and telling us that we're needing this vaccine for nothing, okay? All of us going to need it. Even though all of us don't even get sick of this coronavirus. 80% of us is not even going to get sick. But no, we need this vaccine. Okay? So that's a great deception that's going on. So it deceives the inhabitants of the earth. All the earth. It ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. Okay? So setting up to the beast, which is a political system, an image to this first beast. The second beast who was wounded, the second beast was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast, so that the image could speak and cause all who refuse to worship the image to be killed. Now, think about this. Paul is seeing, and now you have to put yourself into the shoes of Paul. Paul lives during the time, after Jesus, 90 after. He does not even know what a picture is. He knows image like he knows statues. Okay, that's all he knows. He knows images in form of paintings. Okay, that's the kind of images he knows. Paintings or statues. And now he is saying that these paintings or statues are coming to life and are starting to speak. Now, when we see that today, what do we see today? Okay, we know we have the technology of images speaking. Okay, our computer, our cell phones are exactly that. The images are speaking. So this second beast has that technology, or came up with that technology to make these images speak. Okay, even a 3D image. We now have the capability of holographic images that look very real. 3D holographic images that look real. That's what we have today. Capability. Now, how did that look to John if he would see that today? Can we see that this is what we're having today? We're today having that technology to make these kinds of things, to have a cell phone and we have an image on there of the system, and we're bowing down. We have to bow down to that system. Okay? Now, again, John described it in his own words, and he couldn't understand. Can you imagine John seeing a cell phone? Okay? With these images on it. Like or dislike? People disliking or liking. Okay? What did he see? So the second beast was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast, so that the image could speak and cause all who refuse to worship the image to be killed. So in other words, if I don't bow down to the system and allow myself to be controlled by the system, okay, do certain things, have a mark, because that's the next one. It also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their forehead, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast of the or the number of its name. Okay? So it has something to do with the system. We have to think in today's terms. What will that look like with our technology today? Not anymore. I mean, we used to think the barcode was the mark. We would get a barcode or whatever, okay? What is the technology we have today? We have nanotechnology, okay? We have something called luciferase, okay? That we can actually see. They put a mark on there and we can see it through the light, infrared light or whatever they're using. We have the technology today to do all these things. And where did that technology really come from? Well, it came from that system, from that beast, from this new beast that came out of the earth. Okay? This technology was really created mainly by the US and their allies. Yeah, a lot came from China and Russia, but very few things. Most came from the United States. Look at who the major players are. Okay? Other stuff comes from the United States and the allies. From this system, from this political system. And right now, they have everything in place where they want to control us all. They're already putting this in place through the technology, through the nano technology that they want to change our DNA, okay? And through the, I'm going to have to say it, G5, because that's going to be part of it. How are they going to control all of us? Total control. Now, don't tell me that this is not here yet. That it still has to come about sometime, during a 7-year period of time. No, you don't have the time to create an empire like this, to create technology within 7-year period of time. It is all now already being prepared, okay? Because when the rapture happens, and it can happen next year, that everything is going to be in place. And Satan is going to take over, because this time is going to get pretty bad. He's going to have to control a lot of people. Of course, a lot of people will die too. But the rest of the people that are left over, he's going to have to control them, because we're going to have a lot of famines. Food's going to be scarce. And he's going to have to control the people that want food. How does he do it? He's going to use the technology that is in place today. And people, we are in the end times right now. I have showed very clearly in some of my videos that this mark of the beast is not coming on the scene, fully implemented after the wrath of God. I believe I talked about that when I talked about the wrath of God in the 7 trumpets and the 7 bowls. Because that's when we see really this mark. Okay? Is described in detail, this mark. So, if you cannot see, period, if you cannot see that this system is here, that everything is prepared, there is nothing left over for Jesus to return to pick up his bride and for the wrath to start. Nothing. Okay? Nothing. I have done, people think, oh, like I said, this Antichrist has to come and the falling away has to happen. No, nothing. Nothing has to happen anymore. It's all there in front of you. You cannot explain this in any other way. Who else do you think this beast can be out of the earth? Right now, the empire, right now in this world. This is what the empire right now in this world is. Okay? Because this is the end times empire. And it can only be the United States and its allies, called the New World Order. And they have already worked on that. The World Economic Forum is one of these agencies who have been bringing about this reset, this change, okay? And this economic forum is all the allies again. The United States with all the allies, again, that have been creating this World Economic Forum, that are now implementing the economic part of this reset. It's all in place, people. It's all in place. It's been planned for a long time. And who is behind it? Only Satan. Okay? Remember, we started when he was kicked out, when Jesus was born, and he was, he died on the cross, and Satan was kicked out, and he was creating his world empire. And he said, oh, he doesn't have very much time left, so he has to hurry up to create the stuff. Well, it takes time, people. Okay? And he had time, 2,000 years, to create his empire, one empire after another. And people still think we have a democracy. Yes, we had a democracy a long time ago, but we haven't had a democracy for a long time here in the United States as well. Has been all taken over, again, by Satan. And, of course, his minions. Okay? The minions. There's so much more to say, but I need to come to an end. But I hope you understand how historically all this has developed. Because it does. It has developed until today. There is no gap. It's not 2,000 year gap. Oh, Satan's not going to come until the end and then establishes his kingdom or whatever, an empire. No, it takes time. Do you see how long it took for this whole thing to develop for 2,000 years? It doesn't just happen overnight like this. You have to look at history. This is one thing after another. You can see it. Chapter 12 and 13, how it happened. Now, when we go into chapter 14, guess what? It starts all over again. We're going to go all the way back to the rapture again. Okay? Well, actually, we're going to the rapture. So after all this stuff is happening, then, of course, the rapture happens. But that's for another time. I'm going to come to an end. I'm going to finish up. Please let the Holy Spirit guide you always.